And here we go. All right. Important to know. Quadrant 1. The cosine. Is it positive or negative? Positive. The sine in quadrant 1. Positive or negative? The tangent in quadrant 1. Positive or negative? Quadrant 2. The cosine. Positive or negative? Negative. Negative. If you look at your unit circle, the x value in quadrant 2 is negative. X value goes with cosine. The sine in quadrant 2, positive. The tangent in quadrant 2, negative, because y divided by x is positive divided by a negative, which is a negative. Okay? All right, quadrant 3, cosine. Negative. Sine. Negative. Tangent. Positive, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Quadrant 4, cosine. Positive. Sine. Negative. Tangent. Negative. There we are. So, now they're cofunctions. What's the cofunction of cosine? Secant. The secant. So, in quadrant 1, the secant will be positive. Quadrant 2, the secant will be negative. Quadrant 3, the secant will be negative. Quadrant 4, the secant will be positive. Same as the cosine. What's the cofunction of sine? Cosecant. So quadrant 1, cosecant is positive. Quadrant 2, cosecant is positive. Quadrant 3, cosecant is negative. Quadrant 4, cosecant is negative. Same as the sine. What's the cofunction of tangent? Cotangent. So quadrant 1, positive. Quadrant 2, negative. Quadrant 3, positive. Quadrant 4, negative. Okay? You need to know that. Now, let's say we're told that the sine in quadrant 2 is 8/11ths, and we need to find the cosine. Okay, if we're in quadrant 2, just draw a little quadrant out. If we're in quadrant 2, we're somewhere out here. Does it have to be a perfect of exactly where it's at? No. Just draw a triangle out in quadrant 2, if you know we're in quadrant 2. And it says the sine is 8/11ths. I know sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is 8, hypotenuse is 11. If I want to figure out the cosine, I need my adjacent. How do I figure out my adjacent side? Pythagorean theorem. 11 squared equals 8 squared plus b squared. 121 equals 64 plus b squared. Subtract 64. 57 equals b squared. Take the square root. b equals the square root of 57. So the cosine would be the square root of 57 over 11. And since we're in quadrant 2, it is negative. Okay? So your first couple problems will be like that. Okay? Let's look at this one. The cosine is 1/6 and the sine is negative. What quadrant are we in if the cosine is positive and the sine is negative? Quadrant 4. So when you do this problem, draw a triangle down in quadrant 4. Always, 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 once you draw your diagonal down, you always go to the horizontal line, not to the vertical line. Okay, here's our angle. Cosine is 1, hypotenuse is 6. We need to figure out what the opposite side is. And again, you use the Pythagorean theorem. 6 squared equals 1 squared plus b squared. So 36 equals 1 plus b squared. 35 equals b squared. Take the square root. So it's the square root of 35. So it's the square root of 35 over 6. And sine is positive or negative? negative in quadrant 4. So they have a couple like that, and you'll hit some of those a little later on. Okay? Then we're going to be talking about reference angles, which is how far an angle is from the nearest horizontal line. Okay? How far an angle is from the nearest horizontal line. So 150 degrees. Which picture is 150 degrees? A, B, C, or D? D is 150 degrees. How far is it from its nearest horizontal line? 30 degrees, because the horizontal line's at 180 degrees. So you're either at 0 or 180 or 360. Okay? So you're 30 degrees away. How far is 30 degrees in radians? 30 degrees in radians is what over what? Pi over 6. It's on your unit circle. So if you look on your unit circle, pi over 6 is 30 degrees. I would get out your unit circles right now because we're going to be using them over the next 5 minutes or so. So you need to know your unit circle. 30 degrees is pi over 6. Okay, continuing on. Let's look at the next angle. Which one of these is pi over 3? Which one of these is pi over 3? B is pi over 3. So how far in radians is pi over 3 from this horizontal line? Pi over 3. That is as easy as it gets. Okay? Because if you're at pi over 3, you're pi over 3 away from the horizontal line. Okay? How many degrees are you away from the horizontal line? Well, you look on your unit circle and see pi over 3 is 60 degrees. All right. 600 degrees. Now, 600 degrees is not on your unit circle, is it? So we have to think back to very day one of trig and coterminal angles. How many degrees apart are coterminal angles? 360. So you take the 600 minus the 360 and you're at 240. So that is on your unit circle. What angle is 240? A is. Okay. A is. So that's 240. How far away are you in degrees from the horizontal line, the nearest horizontal line at 240? 60 degrees, because you're 60 degrees greater than 180. 180 plus 60 is 240. So 240 minus 60 is 180. So that's how far you're away. So if you're 60 degrees as a reference angle, 60 degrees is what on your unit circle? And radians. Pi over 3. You're pi over 3 away. Okay? And that's your reference angle. Okay? So basically, 240 degrees, if you're looking for the sine of 240, it's the same as the sine of pi over 3. You just have to know what quadrant you're in as far as the plus minus goes. Okay? Negative 5 pi over 4. Now, here you have to be careful because negative 5 pi over 4, there's two lines that are in the same place that both could be answers. But what they're wondering is, which is the correct direction that you're going if you go negative 5 pi over 4? Would you go counterclockwise or clockwise for a negative 5 pi over 4? You actually go clockwise. So that is here, C. So that's the angle in standard position. How far is negative 5 pi over 4 away from your nearest horizontal line in radians? Well, negative 5 pi over 4 is right here. How far is it down to here? It's 45 degrees, but in radians it is pi over 4. Okay? It's 45 degrees, but it's pi over 4. And sometimes for a lot of trig students, it's easier to find the degrees first, and then we'll work back to radians. Okay? So that is just fine. Then find the exact value of the sine of 330. You just look on your unit circle. And a lot of these you're going to be looking on your unit circle. But here, this one is not on your unit circle. the sine of negative 10 pi over 3. Okay? Not going to be on your unit circle. So how do we do it? Well, we have to use coterminal angles. So negative 10 pi over 3. What over 3 am I going to add to it? 2 pi, but not 2 pi over 3. 2 pi is the same as what over 3? 6 pi over 3. I'm going to add 6 pi over 3 and get negative 4 pi over 3. Then I'm going to add another 6 pi over 3 to get me to 2 pi over 3. Then I just look at my unit circle. What is the sine of 2 pi over 3? Okay, is it going to be positive or negative? Positive, because we're in quadrant 2. Okay, we're in quadrant 2. Cosine of negative 13 pi over 6. Well, negative 13 pi over 6 is not in our unit circle exactly. So what am I going to add to it? 2 pi is what over 6? 12 pi over 6. So you get negative pi over 6. And if I add another 12 pi over 6, I'm at 11 pi over 6. What quadrant am I in? At 11 pi over 6, because that is on your unit circle. Quadrant 4. Is cosine going to be positive or negative in quadrant 4? Positive. And the cosine at that point is? Square root of 3 over 2. So I'll let you figure out some of these others. When we get to 15, the sine of 11 pi over 6, well, that's straightforward. That's right on your unit circle. You can see that that is negative 1/2. Cosine of 11 pi over 6 is positive square root of 3 over 2. How do we find the tangent of 11 pi over 6? What is the tangent of 11 pi over 6? Remember, use your unit circle, and tangent is what over what? Y over x. So my y is negative 1/2. My x is square root of 3 over 2. When I have a complex fraction, to get rid of my complex fraction, I multiply by the denominator of the denominator. 2's cancel. So I get negative 1 over square root of 3. Can't leave it like that, so multiply top and bottom by square root of 3. So I get negative square root of 3 over 3. Cosecant. What do I do to find the cosecant? I just flip the sign. So it's negative 2. To find the secant, I just flip the cosine. So it's 2 over square root of 3. Can't leave it as that. So it's 2 square root of 3 over 3. And cotangent of 11 pi over 6. What's cotangent of 11 pi over 6? Well, just flip this one over. So it's the square root of 3 over negative 1, which is just negative square root of 3. Okay? So you have a few of those where you have to find the 6 trig functions. And then finally, what we'll do at the end of the assignment is we'll figure out if these are true or false. Is the cosine of 135 the same as the negative cosine of 45? What's the cosine of 135? That's negative square root of 2 over 2. What's the cosine of 45? Square root of 2 over 2. And it says, is this equal to the negative of that? Well, negative, negative, they're the same thing. That's a true statement. Okay? Cosine of 153, cosine of 27. Uh-oh, those are not on our unit circle. Now, how far is 153? Because 153 is somewhere around there. How far is that from 180? How far is 153 from 180? 27 degrees. So they have the same reference angle, so they will be equal. If they're the same reference angle, they'll be equal. So, cosine in quadrant 2, is it positive or negative? Negative. And the negative of the positive makes this negative. Are they going to be equal? Yes, they sure will be. Okay? All right, cosine of 11 pi over 12. 11 pi over 12 is somewhere over here. Pi over 12 is somewhere over here. And again, with cosine and cosine again. How far is 11 pi over 12 from 12 pi over 12? 1 pi over 12. Positive, negative. Again, this one would be true. Are they going to be true on all true on your assignment? Probably not. You'll have to think about it a little bit more. But those are 20 problems for you to do to work through. It's most of this we've done before. It's just reference angles and just looking at it a little differently. So there you go. Use your unit circle. Do your best. I think